This time on episode 234 of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we talk Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, the Devil Complex. We talk your Marvel News Roundup, and we talk your listener feedback.
I'm Stargate Pioneer from the official GonnaGeek.com podcast, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the one you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual. Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
You have been granted clearance by Director Phil Coulson. Stand by for S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. Director.
Now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Director SP.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Consultant Michelle.
Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D, a Marvel Comic Universe fan show. The show is recorded on Sunday, March 25th, 2018, live from the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. studios and broadcast galactic-wide via www.geeks.live. Happy National Tolkien Reading Day, ladies!
Yay! Okay, so on the video, I'm trying to show off my tattoo. It's upside down because this is a very awkward angle. Hold on. Which is a quote from the Silmarillion, which is Orientaluva, which is Sindarin for Day Shall Come Again. It's my favorite quote from the Silmarillion. And yay, Tolkien. The Silmarillion, by the way, benefits from being read out loud. Just a hint there.
I didn't realize that there was a National Tolkien Reading Day, so this is just pretty cool for me figuring this out for the first time.
Yeah, okay. Seriously, J.R.R. Tolkien stuff, people give him so much crap because, it's so dry. It really benefits from being read out loud. So find an audiobook that Christopher Lee reads, the Children of Hurin audiobook. And it's amazing.
Have you done, since you are a voiceover audiobook narrator, have you done a Tolkien novel yet?
I have not, but in my third read-through of the Silmarillion, I read it out loud to myself.
You should record it next time.
Oh, I can't. There's rights issues. But my recommendation is to, if you find yourself please read the Silmarillion. It's amazing. But there's one chapter where all it is basically a description of land masses and which of Feanor's sons gets what. Just skip that chapter. It's fine. It's fine.
A little fan head canon for you. By the way, it's also Happy National Medal of Honor Day, and I just want to say thank you to any veterans who happen to be listening to this podcast. If you happen to be a Medal of Honor winner, I would love to know that because that would be a great honor for us. But just want to say that, by the way, Medals of Honors, it's an American military service highest rating or highest honor that you can get. And it started, I didn't know this, didn't remember this. I actually knew this for a while, but I didn't remember this until this popped up. 1861, the Medal of Honor was created. And the first Medal of Honors were actually issued in 1863 on this day. So that is why this is Happy National Medal of Honor Day. And with those two history lessons, we're going to move on for the rest of the podcast. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fan-based podcast on the ABC television show Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel's Defenders on Netflix, Legion on FX, possibly The Gifted on Fox, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the Marvel comic book universe in general.
Because of craving proper British junk food.
If you'd like to talk to us about proper British junk food, you can find us at our website, legendsofshield.com.
If you would like to list all of your favorite junk food, you can leave us a voicemail at 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871.
If you'd like to share your love of Jaffa cakes with us, because Jaffa cakes, you can find us on Facebook at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Podcast.
If you would like to tweet about how Americans call biscuits cookies, you can find us on Twitter at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D.
If you'd like to share your love of Chip Shop Fish and Chips, you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/GonnaGeek.
And remember, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a proud member of the GonnaGeek.com network.
Agent Haley is out for one last week. She said, I'm going to be out for 3 weeks. That was 3 weeks ago. Next week is kind of a special family religious holiday here in America, so I don't know if she's going to be able to join us next week or not. Michelle and I will be here, though, and we'll just see if she's here. If she's not, you have been warned, but she should be back in a couple of weeks. And follow on to our exciting announcement last week. If you missed it, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. now has its own skill on Amazon's personal voice assistant home device. Yes, I am not going to say the A word, so I don't accidentally set yours off in case you have one. Bottom line, it's really neat. All you need to do is say A word, which is what I'm using for the real name, so I don't accidentally set your device off. A word, enable Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. skill, and you'll be able to have full player control of our entire back catalog. And if you do happen to enable the skill, go ahead into the Amazon skill store and please rate the skill, because we are beta testing it for Libsyn, or Liberated Syndication. That is where we host the media for our show. So if you download or listen to this podcast audio wise, you are getting it from Libsyn at some point or another. So that is really where it is, and we would really appreciate you rating the skill. And we are really excited to be able to bring this capability, this skill, to you, and we hope you find it useful. All right, ladies, let's get on to the main event. Now, Lauren, the main event this time around is the latest Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode, The Devil Complex. What's with that title?
Okay, so I'm actually looking for what that is. It's a thing in psychology. And, well, okay, maybe not. I Googled Devil Complex Psychology, and I was led to an article called The Psychological Power of Satan. And it doesn't really look like it has anything to do with what we're...
All right, so there's possibly no medical term known as the Devil Complex, but in terms of this episode, what does the Devil Complex mean?
There is a thing on TV tropes called the Devil Complex.
Ah, so it's a story.
Well, TV tropes, what TV tropes is, for those of you who don't know, and if you don't know, I'm sorry if you go there and find hours of your time wasted. And if you do know, I'm sorry if you go there and you find all your time wasted. TV Tropes is a site that takes all these common elements and stories and distills them into catchy little names, like different character types. There's, let's say, Knight in Sour Armor, which is a good character who's very sarcastic. Or Dark One, which is the ultimate evil being in all this stuff. But Devil Complex is a discussion page on here. And it's a character who starts to become very devil-like. And it's not a full page because there's still some discussion on whether this is an actual character type. There's a movie called The Devil Complex from 2016. It's a horror movie. And of course, there's this episode. So I guess what you could call it is Fitz in this episode is thinking there is a side of him that is basically the devil. And we will remember him as the Doctor from the framework.
That's right, which is interesting to me because perhaps Deke's experience in programming his version of the framework will come in. Remember, I kept saying they didn't just tell us that for no reason. There is something going on with Deke in the framework, and since we're not in the future anymore, I could totally see this as coming to fruition as something to help Fitz out. So we will wait and see. In the meantime, let's talk numbers and statistics and the creative team of this episode. Michelle, who directed the episode?
It's directed by Nina Lopez-Corrado. Has 13 directing credits since 2012, including 1 episode of The Mentalist, 1 Frequency, 1 of The Librarians, 1 Flash, 1 Runaways, 1 Once Upon a Time, 5 Supernatural, and 3 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Indeed, one of the recent adds to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. team. Lauren, who wrote the episode?
The episode was written by Matt Owens, who has 3 credits since 2017, looks like. But it's all for Marvel properties. He's been story editor for 13 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and written for story editor for 2 episodes of The Defenders and staff writer for 13 episodes of Luke Cage and written by 1 episode.
That is a dream job, right? Writing for Marvel. Didn't you and Haley want to become story creators for Marvel at one point in time?
Yeah, I think that we would do a good job. I think that we could add some fresh, interesting takes on some possibly problem characters that they don't know what to do with.
So if Matt Owen or the rest of the Marvel team would want to reach out to you and include you in some possible planning, they are more than welcome to.
Of course.
Okay, there you go. ABC aired this episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as the 14th episode of the 5th season, as we mentioned, called The Devil Complex. It was aired on Friday, March 23rd, 2018, to a live rating of 2.03, which was down from the reported rating of 2.14 last week with Principia, as I kept on calling it, or as Lauren called it, Principia. And I want to note that because after we recorded the podcast, the revised ratings came out, and last week it was down from 2.14 to 2.07. The 2.03 is actually in line with the previous week, and it's not down so much, but always we want higher ratings for the show, especially as good as it has been this year. Michelle, did your mom watch the episode?
Yes, she did.
And what is her take?
She's confused.
I'm not surprised. I was confused watching it as well.
Yeah, confused about like what was going on in the episode, and she has confused feelings about Fitz and what he's done.
It is a aspect to the show which we were not prepared to deal with. It came out of nowhere. I mean, we knew it was there, but we thought it was dealt with and we were moving on with life. We didn't know that it was still a thing. When I first saw the Doctor, I figured that the Doctor in this episode, I figured that the Doctor was just one of the fear apparitions, right? There were things that kept happening that said, well, maybe not, maybe this is different, or maybe the fears have gotten more powerful, and they did get more powerful, like with the spaceman, that we didn't know exactly what was going on. And to have this resurface after all that time, it was a good shock to me. I'll tell you, I was like half watching the episode because I had other things going on, and this started happening. I'm like, what is going on in the show? It is something that, like I said, I was not prepared for. I mean, ladies, were you prepared for something like this?
I was not. Full disclosure, I was having an atypical migraine for the latter half of the week. And as the show was coming on, I was fighting it off. I was not having a good time. So for the first half of the episode, I was not particularly enjoying it. I was debating asking Michelle to take over. And then things started to kick into high gear. And I started thinking, no, I want to sit this one through. I want to just power through it because I want to see where this is going. And I'm really glad I did.
So you liked this storyline, this plot?
I liked it in that it ripped my heart out and stomped on it.
Okay. Because I was like, this is totally not cool. I mean, they just got married and now they have to deal with this. This is...
a thing you need to understand about me is I love angst.
Yeah, but this is your science babies, though.
I know it is, and it's ripping my heart out. And just as there's a part of me that's like, just let them be happy, there's also a part of me that is reveling in the angst. Just give it to me.
Michelle, I mean, what's your take on the whole thing? Because this is a definite twist in the series.
I am not pleased with how this went. This triggered a lot for me. What I'm afraid of, Fitz had a psychotic break. It's kind of disassociation. It's a bit psychosis. It's, he's having an actual mental illness. I have a mental illness. I am afraid that they are just going to have him get a speech from Simmons or something, and it's going to cure him when he really needs like therapy and pills, because that's what I need. Yes, when you have a mental illness, you need a support system. And you guys, SP, Stephen, Lauren, all of you guys, Naki, you've never given up on me through all this time. But I am functional because I finally have treatment and I have the right pills and I go to my doctor. And here's Fitz having an actual mental illness moment. I just don't know how the writers are going to resolve this. That's one part. And then the violation of Daisy. That's a whole other thing of like him not just talking to her about it. I'm sure if maybe he would have said something and she could have considered it and everything, but instead forcing her to have that implant removed, there she's tied down and everything. That was very disturbing because it's not just him having a mental break. It's him doing that. And if he's going to suffer consequences, because when I was untreated, I had a lot of consequences. I lost jobs. I had to declare bankruptcy. I lost my house. I've had to go through all those consequences. And I don't know if he's going to go through that because there needs to be serious consequences from what he's done.
Indeed, the whole thing with Simmons, or excuse me, the whole thing with Sky, with Daisy, was very overpowering because I'm watching the whole thing going, what? I can't, oh my gosh. So we're seeing things being placed in motion to get to the eventuality of the future that we've seen. And it's all basically happening probably as it happened before. We haven't seen any break from what's happened before. And this is a twist to that story of Fitz dealing with this now known mental illness, this psychotic issue, which was brought about by the framework. That's how it seems. But I mean, it could have been inherent in him the whole time.
So one thing that I want to bring up, okay, my love of angst in fiction aside, there is an issue with media representation of people with mental illness, with traumatic brain injuries. And I really wanted to address this issue, this episode. And there's a tendency for the media to portray people with mental illness and with brain injuries as dangerous, as scary, when in reality, people with mental illnesses are likely to, much more likely, statistically much more likely to be victims than to be victimizers. And the thing is, there's this responsibility to portray somebody honestly and sympathetically. And I don't think that any of us would argue that Fitz is not being portrayed sympathetically. But at the same time, he is also being portrayed as a victimizer here. And a mental illness, any form of disability, of problem, is never an excuse to not be a bad person. Like, I've seen people, I've been that person who's kind of leaned back on it and being like, well, this is my excuse. It's never an excuse. You have an obligation to be a decent person. And his victimization of Daisy here was awful. And that's something that I really wanted to address with regards to especially Simmons. Because in a relationship, you should not be scared of your partner. And you need to, while a good relationship, you know, you need to be good partners, work with each other, you lean on each other, you are your support network. And nobody is ever going to be 100% healthy physically, mentally, whatever. But at the same time, you need to not be scared of your partner. So one thing that I'm really hoping, what the show did with Fitz saying, I don't know where we are from here, with Simmons saying, I don't know where we are from here. It's heartbreaking, but this is a thing that happens. I've seen this in my own situation. I've seen this with my friends and family. And I really, really hope that the writers are aware of the responsibility that they have of portraying this both honestly and sensitively. And yeah, I'm glad that they didn't forget about Fitz's brain injury, because that's something that I have been worried about in previous seasons. There's this tendency for people to somebody gets injured and they kind of erase it. Like with Coulson's hand, suddenly he has a magic robot hand, but we have seen, he needs to recharge it. Sometimes it doesn't work. With Yo-Yo here, with her arms, we've seen her recovering. She has the robot arms. We've seen her kind of learning to use them, but it's painful. It's painful both mentally and physically. And with Fitz, we find out that because of stress, and hey, stress is one of the things that brings out, if you have a mental illness, it's like it's a physical illness. It's just inside your head where it's not visible. And just like stress can cause physical injury flare-ups, can cause, say, if you have an autoimmune illness, can cause that to flare up. If you're stressed, it can cause mental illness to flare up. And he has been so stressed lately. So it's really not a surprise that this would be causing him to have a really, really bad flare-up.
Yeah, he was stressed enough of trying to find a solution to contain the gravitonium that this complex, the double complex, if we're going to call it that, arose specifically, as we learn, to enable Daisy to enable the squishing of the gravitonium so that the fear rift can be closed. And it's born out of the stress of trying to find a solution to that. And the solution, I don't think, now eventually maybe the solution might have been something that everybody agreed to, but he didn't give everybody a choice. The doctor said, this is what's going to have to happen, so let's do it, because it's the most important thing in his eyes, and nobody else had a chance to vote on it. So, dangerous way to make decisions by not informing everybody else, but it's what he did. So again, where do we go from here? Where does Simmons and Fitz go from here? Where does Fitz go with the team from here? And what about Daisy and her future too? I mean, now that the inhibitor is not in her anymore, she has her powers back, and this could lead to very bad things in the future. So, Michelle, what do you think about the whole General Hale getting caught part of the episode? General Hale allowed herself to get caught by passing false information through Piper. We'll get to that later. But she got caught in order to advance something in her plan. So what did you think about that?
I don't know why Coulson just doesn't say, look, we know about this and we know about that. We know about the Kree. You think you know everything. You know the dangers that's coming. Guess what? We know about the Kree. We know about this. You might need us more than we need you. I just thought it was interesting that he allowed himself to be taken. I mean, he knows it's a trap. They had an interesting discussion about like who killed Talbot, like who's ultimately responsible, because they're like, no, it wasn't Daisy, it was the LMD. But they're like, yeah, but that LMD was designed by Fitz. And if you take apart Ivanov, you'll see S.H.I.E.L.D. technology. And they just keep going around and around of, you did this, no, you did that, and you did this. And it's just eventually, everybody needs to have their cards on the table, because all this mysterious things, I think, is just going to allow the Kree come along, because maybe that's part of it. Just not sharing information leads to the world cracking.
Well, it's all true. Yeah, I was going to go somewhere else with that, but I'm not going to. Yeah, it's all true in the fact that Team S.H.I.E.L.D. holds part of the culpability here. They really do. I mean, the whole thing with Fitz helping Dr. Batiatis, right? Batty, create Ada to begin with. I mean, he does share some responsibility, and then who is ultimately responsible? Any given normal organization would have fired Fitz for what he did, and then he wouldn't be allowed to work on that sort of thing in the future. But we're not in that environment. We're in this environment of supernatural things happening all the time. And so Fitz keeps being able to work. And I don't know if that's really something that society is capable of accepting and moving on. So it brings up a good point. Although the preview for next week basically indicates that Hydra, which is revealed that she is officially working for some branch of Hydra, Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. need to reunite to fight the Kree. And who knows about the camera shots, if they were taken into order or not, but Coulson's face, once that was recommended, seemed to indicate, yeah, sure, let's go ahead and do this. What?
Yeah, I'm not cool with that, but I am cool with Peter Mensa being on the show, because that guy in the shadows at the end, 100% that was Peter Mensa, and I am all for more Spartacus alumni being on the show. Just give them all the work. I just saw Pacific Rim Uprising, and it was directed by Stephen S. DeKnight, who did season 1 of Daredevil and also was the showrunner for all the Spartacus shows. And there was some little cameos from Spartacus people in there. So just give them all the work. I love that show. I love all the people from that show.
Now, the character, the actor that played Ivanov, now an android, he wasn't in Spartacus, right?
He was not, but he was on Black Sails, which I need to get back to my watch through of that. He played Charles Vane, and you get to see quite a lot of him on that show. Like a lot.
We don't see his robot insides this time around, and his hair is definitely longer. Do you think the androids can grow their hair?
I don't see why not, because, well, I was going to say you'd get suspicious if you saw somebody with the same hair year after year, but then I remembered that my dad has had the same haircut since he was 5 years old.
Is it a bowl cut?
No, it's like a side part.
I see. And then also, I brought this up, I believe it was last week, where Yo-Yo, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, where Yo-Yo wasn't really thinking about the future and everything, remembering everything that she told herself or she remembered hearing or that sort of thing. And then now she's thinking about the future of the possibilities here. So I think at some point, in order for the series to end properly, we need to get out of this loop of what's going to happen with the future. And possibly Yo-Yo's got the key to that. I don't know.
Yeah, here, this episode, she's really not in a good place. We see her trying out her robot arms. She's keeps saying, Max trying to tell her, oh, take it easy, take it easy. She's saying it's not supposed to be easy. Anybody who has ever been in physical therapy after a major accident will know this. There's that whole simultaneous, I want to baby this versus I just want to get this over with kind of anger. So that was very relatable. And at the same time, she's double mad because of the future. And everything that she's seeing is bringing her one step closer to that horrible future. It just sucks to be Yo-Yo right now. And she's convinced she's going to lose Mac, and she's convinced the team is losing its way, and she's just, everything is terrible from her perspective. And she's down, 2 arms, basically.
Yeah, and even if she does get the robot arms back, the question is, do they move at super speed, at Yo-Yo speed or not? That'll be a good question. I don't know if they will.
There was that one line where she's saying that she doesn't want arms with bells and whistles. I'm there thinking, okay, ever since I was little, I've given a lot of thought to this. I always think about the worst case scenarios. So I do things like teaching myself to grab things with my feet in case I lose my arms, and teaching myself to do things with my eyes closed in case I lose my vision, things like that. But I always thought, if I ever lose an arm or a leg, I don't want a prosthetic that looks like an arm or a leg. I want one that looks weird. I want one that just draws people attention to it because it looks so cool. I want one with all the bells and whistles. Just give me one that's a Swiss Army knife with a rocket launcher.
Oh,
give me it.
Lauren with a rocket launcher. That's never going to end well, will it, Michelle?
No, it won't. I just don't get why Yo-Yo hasn't told everybody to let Coulson die.
Yeah, because maybe that's the key, right? Is that Coulson needs to die, and maybe they cause the future by trying to save Coulson.
Well, we know that they do, so I'm guessing what is going to happen is they're going to wait for the opportune time at the most dramatic, when she does something to prevent them from saving Coulson and everyone hates her, but it's the right, I don't know. It's going to be something dramatic. Because this team is the most extra.
I would think if they do indeed let Coulson pass away, that we need to see the cellist one last time. I know that they're not an item anymore, but it would be nice to see the cellist one last time.
It would be.
I just wanted an excuse to see Amy on the screen again, but...
Well, you can see her on The Gifted. Huh?
And it's an interesting character for her, the mom, right? The mom of 2 teenage mutants. So, yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Mutants.
Yeah, there's no turtles there. I was wondering where you were going to go. There's no turtles in Gifted.
I mean, there could be. The writers just have to write it in.
You know who I don't think has ever seen a turtle? It's Deke. And
that's true. They should take him to a zoo. I just want a bunch of shorts of Deke just doing normal family stuff with various members of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Deke just being amazed by it.
Here's a roller coaster. Here's a merry-go-round. Here's the mall.
Deke at a mall. Deke at a park.
Do you know how Marvel has this fascination of putting its characters into an ice cream situation? It happened since the first Iron Man movie, right? With the kid on the Ferris wheel with the ice cream. And it was also in Daredevil.
Didn't they have it here when he was about to eat something out of a trash can?
Yeah, yeah, they did. But I mean, he needs a proper ice cream moment where he's at the amusement park or at the zoo and he's buying ice cream with mom and possibly dad if they can let him out, that sort of thing, or grandma and grandpa if they let him out. So yeah,
what they need to do is just have a nice family bonding day where they go to the zoo and they have pizza And they just have a nice day. Just give them a nice day.
You know, Zoo and Amusement Park pizza is the most expensive pizza ever in the world.
It really is, and it's not even that good.
No, I was going to bring that up too. It's not that great. It's not as good as like ballpark pizza. Like if you ever go to a stadium to watch a game, like a football game or basketball game, the pizza there is actually okay. It's like $25,000 per slice, but it's okay.
You know what's surprisingly good? Zoo and Amusement Park chicken tenders.
Yeah, I've transitioned to ordering that in lieu of anything else just because
it tends to be cheaper and it tends to be consistently pretty decent.
Yep, and better for you. Yep. I mean, there's no good selection there unless you get a salad.
And the salads tend to be kind of wilty. And
yeah.
But yeah, oh man, now I want chicken tenders.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. We'll let you have lunch in a second. But Hale is now revealed to be part of Hydra, and this is a part of Hydra I'm not familiar with. What is the Confederacy?
The losing side of the American Civil War.
And they're still Hydra?
Yes.
Okay.
Look, I live in Texas. When I drove to, there was one year where every day when I drove to work, I inevitably ended up beside a truck with a giant windscreen that said "The South will rise again." And there was a big battle over whether or not you could have Confederate flag license plates for a while. The KKK is still active 2 little suburbs over. It's a bit of a fraught subject right about here. So my hackles immediately go up when I hear the Confederacy. So I think this is not intended to be a good organization. This is not intended to be a good side of Hydra, who we all know is Nazis. Squid Nazis.
So you can say Confederates are Nazis?
No, because they predate the Nazis, but I am not a fan.
Okay. Talking about the Southern flag, the Confederate flag, I always like the Dukes of Hazzard movie remake where they're driving the General Lee through the city of Atlanta and everybody's like, what is wrong with you? You know?
Yeah, it's not, you know. But this, the way I'm looking at it with this whole rebranding thing they're doing with the Confederacy here. So in certain parts of Europe, like Germany, the U.S. Confederate flag is being used in place of the swastika because it's a bit more, it's coded, but it's not, you know, it doesn't have the history there, but it's still coded to say we hate racial minorities. We hate non-whites. So it's still, we're Hydra, but we're not using the squid. So I'm wondering if we're going to see that sort of thing.
Well, Hydra's never good. And
no.
We'll see what this all happens. Now, Hale did say that she's trying to prevent the extinction of the human race. So do you think she knows, like, what the team knows in terms of what's going to happen to the Earth? Do you think she's been through some time dilation herself?
I don't think so. But maybe she's just paranoid after the Chitauri thing and the Inhumans thing. And
there seems to be a little bit more into her plan, though, because I mean, she was worried about the Kree coming. She called the Kree. She's the one who set that device off. And she's the one who sent that device down to the S.H.I.E.L.D. warehouse in order to blow up the 3 monoliths. She knows quite a bit more than we're seeing at face value at this time. And I'm just still in the dark as to what her ultimate plan is. But if her plan is to save the Kree, she's the one who called them. So, same.
Yeah, is she trying to set up like a honey trap, maybe?
Like, is she a double agent? Like, if she's like pretending to be part of this Confederacy and she gets the thing and she's learning about the alien invasion because she tells her team that we're building something different from Hydra. I don't know.
Yeah, what Hydra agent is not a double agent? I mean, they all are. They've all got something going on the side.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right. So we do, in fact, know that the Kree are still coming because they were called, and now we see a ship. So in the previews, at least. So here are coming. We get a little bit more Piper action this episode. She was used and abused by H.I.E.L.D. by passing information along to trap in quotes. And we see that Creel is being used. So that's good. But let's get back to Piper. We all called her a traitor before. She's obvious.
I want to like her because I like the actress.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know. Okay, so I ran to the bathroom for this part, and by the time I got back, I missed what happened. So was the information deliberate, or was it just, hey, here's information that I found, and could it be goodwill?
Because May doesn't know, and she's calling it into question right now. It's like, really?
Okay.
Did you? So if you're a big May fan, so go back, rewatch that part of the episode, and you'll see what May says.
Okay.
And is May being overprotective? I don't know. Is she being a little too hard on Piper? I don't know. I know Coulson wants to believe in Piper, but Coulson's also not that stupid either. So if there's something going on there, but he is blind, right? This has been proven before. He's blind to his team. I don't know. I guess this is still open, right, Michelle?
Yeah, because now this poses an interesting question. If they're punishing Piper, are they going to be punishing Fitz?
Well, I would say they would have to.
Yeah.
It's the catch-22. We're at the point where Fitz has done so much that he needs to be held accountable for it. Not just this year, but the whole thing with Ada and everything. So I don't know. Something's got to give. The writers got to give us like a little bit more information before we can really start making some assessments. And maybe that's part of this, is to hold everything beyond our grasp until the final episode. Because as you pointed out in a news story, I believe it was, that the showrunners are treating this as a possible season finale, not just a series finale, or not just a season finale, but possibly a series finale. So I think they've got to wrap up whatever it is in the next half dozen episodes. All right, we're at that point where we're going to rate the episode. And because some reprogrammed robots were used, and we were calling them flying monkeys last week, I'm just going to say, how many flying monkeys out of 10 will you rate the episode? Lauren?
I will give it 9. I'm taking 1 point away for the first half of the episode, which I didn't really follow, but then again, that was also kind of on me. But the rest of it goes back for the second half of the episode.
Okay. Michelle, how many flying monkeys? It's tough, isn't it? I'm thinking about it myself right now.
6.
6 out of 10.
Yeah. Just a lot of this seemed to come out of nowhere. There were some disjointed things. The H.I.E.L.D. thing was just kind of odd. This was not their smoothest episode. Yeah, a 6.
Yeah, I'm not going to debate. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking somewhere between a 5 and a 6, because I was blindsided by this whole storyline. I'm glad they didn't forget about it, but at the same time, the way it resurrected, that it was so impactful towards the team and so impactful towards Daisy. It broke Daisy. Oh my gosh, it broke her. And then once she had her powers back, it's like, well, I have to do this. So she did end up doing the gravitonium because Simmons and was it Deke? It was Deke, right? We're being held at gunpoint. Yeah. So yeah, it was just, I was emotionally affected by Yo-Yo's arms. I am like mentally affronted by what happened in this episode. So yeah, I won't give it high marks. It's a lot to happen in an episode. We didn't even talk about the fact that Simmons figured out who Deke is.
Oh yeah, we haven't.
Yeah.
Deke finally told her there at the end.
Did he tell her, or did he just say things in a way that she figured it out?
He basically kept hinting and hinting and hinting until she got it. And then did she throw up there at the end?
Yeah.
Yep, she's pregnant.
I think she's pregnant.
She 100% she's pregnant.
Yeah, so even after the whole thing with Fitz, now she knows she's got Fitz's baby. This is a roller coaster. This singular episode is probably the most impactful to the team since the series started. So, and I was blindsided by a lot of it. So that's why I rated it the way I did. Next time, we'll be recording an episode on Rise and Shine. That's the next episode that will come by. I want to say that we're going to do it on Sunday, April 1st, but it happens to be a religious holiday that's family-based. And I don't know when exactly we're going to record. I think we're going to record at normal time, but I don't know for sure at the time that we're recording this episode. So, but we will have another episode out next week on that, and that will be our next episode. Michelle, in case, in the meantime, somebody wants to have more geeky content in their lives, how can they do that?
Well, we're part of the Gonna Geek network, and there are a lot of podcasts on various geeky things. And one show is the official Gonna Geek show. Episode 232 is called Gonna Talk About Dolby Atmos. This week, Chris Farrell discusses his recent experience in Dolby Atmos, including running down which devices and streaming apps are working with it. There's this and a whole bunch of other usual geek news in this week's episode.
Yeah, and that, once again, is Gonna Geek Show, the official Gonna Geek Show, episode number 232, available at GonnaGeek.com. It's time to get into the news.
Well, we have some Black Panther news. It's amazing news. It has become the highest grossing superhero film of all time.
Woot.
How well has it done, Lauren?
Well, it has reached $30 million in earnings on Saturday, flying past the $623.4 million earned by the Avengers in 2012. And worldwide, it's earned over $1.2 billion so far. And it's still in the theaters, so it's still earning. And it was made with just a 200 million production budget. So it's probably going to be one of Marvel's most profitable ever.
Yeah, in terms of profitability, oh, absolutely. I don't know if they're going to get to the 1.4 or 1.5 billion dollars that Avengers or Age of Ultron achieved, but it's going to be close. And that's saying something for basically a single character superhero film. This was amazing. So I hope people are taking note. I know people took note about the unrealized success or the surprise success of Deadpool. And we started seeing some changes because of that. And I'm wondering if we'll see similar changes because of this. And I hope so, because this was just an amazing feat to be pulled off.
Yeah, it's just going to be something to see how long it stays in the theaters, because I'm in a small town, well, medium town, with one movie theater and it's still playing. So that says a lot.
Yeah, you got one movie theater, but it's got like 63 screens in it. So
no, it's got 12.
Sure, it's 12 times 12.
No, it's just 12, because our other movie theater shut down. So we're just down to the one with 12 screens. So yeah. On to some other news. This isn't exactly good news. It's about online harassment.
Yes. So I follow a lot of comics creators, especially LGBT and female comics creators. So I've been hearing about this for a while. It's being called Comicsgate, and I've been hearing about this article BuzzFeed had been planning for a while, and it was finally published on March 22nd. There's an online harassment campaign underway against people advocating for diversity in comics. So much like Gamergate, this is a bunch of horrible people harassing people who are either writing female leads, LGBT leads. A lot of people kind of pinpoint it starting back in October 2016 when Chelsea Cain's Mockingbird was canceled. It's the one that had the Ask Me About My Feminist Agenda t-shirt, which I have a shirt that has that cover, and I love that shirt.
It was a good comic book series, by the way.
It
The Mockingbird.
really was.
Yeah.
And that's, remember, we've covered this news story when Flo Steinberg died and a bunch of the women who worked at Marvel went to go get a milkshake in her honor. And people started trolling them horribly. And then people have been fired from, like, IDW. Aubrey Sitterson was fired from G.I. Joe. And there's been people, we've talked about this, going to conventions and complaining at comics panels about things like that. And it's not just the fans, which is one of the things that makes this a bit different from Gamergate. Ethan Van Sciver, who is a writer who used to work for Marvel, actually. I remember he worked for, if I remember right, Spider-Man Noir. Well, I know he worked for New X-Men and Wolverine. Did he work for Spider-Man Noir, or was that Fred Van Lente? I don't want to credit the wrong person.
I don't know.
But anyway, he did work for Wolverine and New X-Men, but he has been rather notorious for abusing people on Twitter and getting his fans to go after them. He denies any affiliation with Comicsgate, but he's still very active with them. He's just said a lot of things. It's really disgusting. The BuzzFeed article goes into it a lot more. We also talked about a Marvel comic artist who worked for Cable, John Mallon, who was involved in this. It's really gross. People are being harassed. People are being, like, some artists that I follow, some writers that I follow. It's really, really awful. And because they're marginalized people, like trans artists, trans writers, women of color, men of color, and because they don't have nearly the following that a lot of the people harassing them, like Ethan Van Sciver, have done, it's like, who do you turn to? So I don't know. It's awful. Just if you find an artist, a writer, somebody whose work you appreciate, maybe just go up to them and be like, "Hey, I like your stuff." Just, it'll make their day, I promise you. Just be a force for good in the world. There's so many people like this being just awful to others. Just take a moment of your time and be a force for good in the world.
Right. For those that think that comic books are just meant for white boys, whatever, grow up. And there's a lot of great stories out there, and a lot of great stories that happen outside of what you would think a young boy teenage boy would like. So get over it. And I found out, by the way, that my neighbors were anti-LGBT. I was like, huh. So I made sure that they knew that I have drones that I can point right at them. True story. True story.
This sort of reminds me of, I saw something, I think maybe probably on Tumblr or something, where somebody where they had a pie, and it's like, well, people who feel threatened, they think people want to take the pie from them, when in reality, we just want to make the pie bigger, and we want to add cake and cookies and all that other type of stuff. We're not trying to take your pie. We're trying to add to it. So calm down and self-reflect and become a better person.
Now I want pie.
Yeah. Chicken tenders and pie. Oh.
Oh man, we're making ourselves hungry.
Yeah, it's not lunchtime at all. What are you talking about?
And we have a new trailer.
Yes, we do. So Cloak and Dagger is going to be on Freeform in early June. And there is a new trailer out, a little bit more into the characters, a little bit more into how they meet, what their powers are. It's good. It's not a very long trailer, maybe 2 minutes. And I'm really digging it. I read an interview with one of the creators, I think it was on the Mary Sue, talking about how they had to update their origin because, the Cloak and Dagger was weirdly progressive for the time it was creative, but it's weirdly regressive for the time that we're setting it in, which is now. So you have to walk this line. And I think the trailer does a very good job of showing that. So this is one that I really want to keep an eye out for. I was introduced to Cloak and Dagger through the Runaways comics. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Moving on to Infinity War, there is this great fan-made supercut called Journey to Infinity War. It is 20 minutes, and yes, I actually took 20 minutes out of my day to watch it all. And it really highlights the main points. So if you do not have 200 hours to rewatch all of the Marvel things before Infinity War, this Journey to Infinity War really is a nice recap and a refresher to let you know all of the things, the major things that have happened. So I don't know if any of you two have had a chance to watch it.
I have not, but it sounds really cool. I love when fans do stuff like this, when people do these supercuts or these fan videos or just things like that. Again, one of the great things about fandom is this involvement. It's wonderful.
And if you happen to know somebody that is late getting on the train in terms of the Marvel movies or the DC movies, but specifically since we're a Marvel podcast, let's talk about the Marvel movies. Getting them to go with you to the theater to see one of these movies might be a little bit too much because they're like, this is the 19th film in the series? Well, I need to know what happens in the other 18 before I go see this, which there's some legitimacy to that. But if that's not going to be a realistic possibility, just have them watch this 20-minute fan cut and they'll be at least caught up enough to catch most of the story. Maybe not any of the callbacks specifically, but most of the story they'll be able to see. So this sort of thing is needed, I think, at this point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I've heard different things that says this is going to be the end of the road for a lot of the characters. We'll see. Don't know any spoilers on that front yet, personally. And if that's the case, then we might be at a point where like with the Rebirth over in the DC Comics, where, okay, this is where I can jump on. I can jump on episode 1 in Rebirth and I can start reading. Then this might be the movie that you want to see if you're not watching the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or you know somebody that is not and you want to bring them to the theater with you. So just saying, it's an awesome recap.
Well, Marvel surprised people at the Kids' Choice Awards by unveiling a clip from Infinity War where it shows Thor crashing into the Guardians' ship. Rocket is yelling for him to get Thor off, like, use the windshield. And they actually pull him inside and he wakes up. People were very surprised, and someone was able to record it because it has not officially been released by Marvel. So the video is kind of
shaky cam
because somebody is filming it. But I think it's just kind of funny where you see they're like touching him and Drax is like, he's not a dude. This is a man. It's funny.
I haven't watched it yet, but as soon as we're done recording, I'm going to have to.
So we have some interesting news about Doctor Doom, the Doctor Doom movie.
Yeah, I completely forgot that Noah Hawley, who is the showrunner for Legion, was doing a Doctor Doom movie. And apparently it's drawing inspiration from The Winter Soldier, which sadly does not mean that it's going to have Sebastian Stan in it.
Now, is this a Sony property?
I think it's a Fox property.
Okay.
Yeah, because Doctor Doom's associated with the Fantastic Four.
Right. So I was just trying to remember. I think most of the movies in the Fox stable were on kind of a hold for a while because of the impending merge or buyout by Disney. So, aka Marvel, who also owns Marvel. So I haven't been paying close attention to it specifically because of that reason. So it's interesting status report of what's going on here. It's like, okay, well, I guess they are going to go forward, at least with the story, at least for now, which, I mean, everybody wants to see a Doctor Doom movie. So good.
I just hope he's not a blogger.
All right. And with that, we're going to move on to some feedback. All right, Lauren, we got some feedback from a few bloggers, don't we?
We have some feedback from some tweeters.
Okay.
We're going to start off with Consultant Black Adam at Starsaber_222, who said, you know, I kind of want to see this now. Hashtag SW Rep Matters. So this is in response to a Tumblr post that got reblogged. Honestly, the prediction posts for Infinity War are better than this movie's going to be. And I'm going to read this. It's good. It's from Tumblr. In Infinity War, I need Thor to have no idea who Peter is, but he doesn't ask. He just sees him using his tech, talking about designing something and interacting with Tony. And at some point during the movie, Thor says to Tony, you should be proud of your son. And Tony's like, my what now? Your son, Peter? He's not, you thought he was my son? And Thor gets awkwardly defensive and goes, well, you know, he has the electronics. And somebody added, and if like 3 other people think so too, and Tony goes, raise your hand if you thought he was my son. He's hyperventilating a little, and at least 2 other people who should know better raise their hands, and Rhodey's one of them. And he shrugs and he's like, I thought you were keeping this on the DL. And then Tony realizes Peter also raised his hand. I kind of love Tumblr's weird Avengers predictions and headcanons.
Lauren, you spend way too much time on Tumblr.
I do. I'm on it in another tab right now, looking at pictures of puppies.
What other feedback did we have this week?
From at Boba Mareel, which, like that username, in response to a tweet that I made about they made something about why couldn't it have been another dimension. I said it could have been the shrimp dimension, which call back to Buffy. Boba Mareel said, the shrimp dimension is dangerous. You could get krilled. I appreciate a bad pun. Thank you for that.
We also have some insight into another science fiction character.
Yes, at Mr. Prickly said, in response to me saying that every time they say the Doctor, I get confused about which science fiction show I'm watching. Funny fact, Doctor Who is both a Marvel and a DC character.
Yeah, and actually was referenced in a recent Legends of Tomorrow episode. So yeah, alive and kicking in both areas. All right, thank you very much for all that feedback. We're going to move on into squishing some gravitonium on the way out. That's it for this episode of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Thank you very much for downloading and continually being part of our show, giving us feedback. It's awesome. And remember, go and enable that Amazon skill, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then go ahead and rate it and let us know what you think about it.
Thank you so much for everybody who gets a hold of us, who, comments, who sends us stuff during the week, who sends us news stories. We love you so much. We love hearing from you. You make our weeks great. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you to everyone who listens to this legally and illegally. We appreciate all of our fans and listening to our, ramblings and everything. It's such.
Let the record show that I did not bring up the illegal torrenting of the show this week. Michelle, that is on you.
Yeah. Hey, I got to own it.
Until next time, I'm Director SP.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Consultant Michelle.
See you guys next week. Bye.
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 Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to gonnageek.com and you will find all our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod, found at incompetech.com, and also artists on pond5.com and audiojungle.net. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual hosts and do not represent Stargate Pioneer Productions, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D, or Gonna Geek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D is the property of the Disney Corporation, Marvel Studios, and ABC. No infringement is intended. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D is copyright 2018.